Let's see if we can bring in Claire Paccalin, who's covering developments for us from the Israeli side today. She's in Jerusalem. Claire, tell us about the Israeli perspective then on the latest news in terms of those strikes that I mentioned, but also the international efforts towards a ceasefire.
Well, the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, say they are continuing to strike and downgrade Hezbollah. We, of course, saw very recently those strikes in Beirut, but also earlier on today, the IDF saying it was targeting areas of the border between Syria and Lebanon, areas it says weapons from Syria are transported across and get into Hezbollah's hands. We also had a statement from the Prime Minister's office earlier on today saying any reports of an easing up of the fighting were completely the opposite of the truth, and that the IDF was very much continuing to hit at full capacity, full force when it came to targeting Hezbollah. So that should give you an idea of where the Israelis stand at the moment when it comes to this northern front, the north of Israel, but those strikes that it's making in Lebanon. Of course, we know thousands, tens of thousands of Lebanese have had to flee those southern parts of Lebanon, but also other areas of the country, trying to get to safety. And over 600 people in Lebanon have been killed just in the last few days alone.
And Claire, also today, the Israeli army says it is conducting a military exercise in the north of Israel near the Lebanese border. It does seem there is some sort of political momentum now building towards a ground invasion of Lebanon. Is there public appetite, though, for such an incursion?
I was in the north of Israel yesterday speaking to people who live there just a few kilometers away from the border with Lebanon. Of course, they live with the constant threat of rockets and drones now coming in and hitting their homes. Also, the debris which can fall to the ground when the Israeli air defense system strikes down and intercepts those rockets or drones that come into the Israeli side from Lebanon. So that's a constant threat for them. That said, though, they also are very aware that while Israel has the upper hand when it comes to the skies against Hezbollah, a ground offensive is a very different matter, and that Israeli troops would be very much at risk and could pay a heavy price if they were to go in on the ground into Lebanon. They would be going into enemy territory where they would be going up against Hezbollah's defenses. Now, of course, Hezbollah has been downgraded, particularly in the last week, by Israel. We've seen those attacks on the Hezbollah fighters' pages and walkie-talkies. Obviously, the bombing we've seen in the last few days by Israel into Lebanon. But also, over the last several months, Israel has successfully been knocking out the top brass of Hezbollah one by one. So Hezbollah has been degraded significantly, but that doesn't mean that it would be an easy ride for Israeli soldiers if they were to go in on the ground, and that many Israelis be fearful of the price their soldiers can pay. That said, Israelis will also tell you that they are unhappy and tired of living with the threat of rocket fire coming from Hezbollah and potentially hitting their homes and affecting their daily lives. So it's a mix when it comes to the Israeli side, but certainly while Israel has the upper hand in the skies, the ground is a different matter entirely.